The night air in Tulsa's East Village trembled with summer heat, yet a single, fragile cry seemed to pierce the hum of passing cars and neon lights, beckoning every compassionate heart that dared to listen. In that cry, thin as silk yet sharp as glass, Stuart Duncan heard echoes of his own childhood, when dusty sneakers and grubby palms carried home trembling puppies, shivering kittens, and once even a one-eyed possum that clung to him like a lost dream. Back then, neighbors whispered that the boy's soul was half woven with the wild. Now, grown and creased, he walked the pavement believing he had tucked that fevered empathy behind deadlines and spreadsheets. But the universe remembers what we try to forget. On this sweltering evening, it remembered through a scrawny. Tabby ribs like harp strings, eyes like molten stars, pressed against the glass of 628 East 3rd Street. Each dull thud of her head upon the door was a prayer. If any human still believes in grace, let him open. Stuart's steps slowed. A lifelong animal rescue, emotional true story, heartwarming animal video, viral YouTube story template stirred. Inside him, though he did not yet know this midnight encounter would soon flood social media feeds with the tags touching animal story, animal miracle, human and animal connection. Streetlights painted golden bars over the kitten's trembling whiskers. The scene felt framed, an accidental film set, raw, unscripted, impossible to ignore. And in that moment, Stuart recalled a verse taught to him by a grandmother whose porch always smelled of rain and barn hay. The breath of the beast and the breath of man rise together, carrying one song to the heavens. Forsake either voice, and the melody of creation is undone. His pulse answered the ancient chorus. He knelt, broad shoulders hunched as though shielding a candle from the wind, and whispered an oath to the stray and the starlight alike. No creature will beg beneath my roof without tasting shelter. Tears pressed hot behind his eyelid stare, jerking sorrow for every forgotten animal, and yet, beneath the ache, a soul-lifting surge of wonder fanned bright. With trembling hands he pried open the door, and destiny striped, starving. Infinitely brave stepped inside. Humans are waiting. Prepare yourself for the wild to change your heart. By dawn, the kitten soon christened Sir Wines, a lot for her ceaseless chirps that sounded like violins searching for tunehad. Entwined herself into Stuart's world like ivy through old brick. At home, his wife Carrie laid down the law. No more permanent residence. Their modest sanctuary already throbbed with the patter of one rescue dog and 2 senior cats. Yet love is a relentless river, forever carving stone. When Carrie finally conceded the feline may stay, but only at Guru Stew, Stuart's graphic design haven Stuart felt the wild bond between promise and possibility blaze open. He fashioned a kingdom inside the office, a plush bed scented with lavender, a ribbon of twine strung between computer towers like tight ropes for a circus star, silver bowls glinting with water that mirrored the kitten's jubilant face. Colleagues, who usually marched and burdened by looming deadlines, soon found themselves surrendered to spontaneous giggles as Sir Wines, a lot danced across keyboards, pawing at cursors like elusive fireflies. And each time she leapt onto a lap and kneaded at tired thighs, deadlines surrendered, anxiety melted, and productivity soared beneath waves of oxytocin. The building itself changed timbre. Printers hummed softer, fluorescent bulbs seemed warmer, and even the rumor of mice scuttling in storage corners vanished beneath the cat's patient hunter's gaze. In every lunchtime cuddle, Stuart heard again the ancestral verse, "Where paw meets palm, the universe knits flesh to fur." In that weave lies the survival of empathy itself. Projects once bled of color now erupted with new life. Clients gasped at logos that pulsed like heartbeats. It was as though the kitten's presence a dramatic wildlife rescue turned office. Fairy tale had laced the air with invisible fireworks. Meanwhile, Carrie, observing from her own realm of spreadsheets, began forwarding friends' shaky cell phone footage. Sir Wines, a lot perched upon a swiveling chair, tail flicking like a maestro's baton. "Look at this touching animal story," she typed, unknowingly seeding a future heartwarming animal video gone viral. In the private hush of night, Stuart locked the office door, crouched before the cat, and felt a cathedral silence fall between. heartbeat and breath. She butted her forehead against his, eyes half closed in trust. And in that quiet he tasted redemption's sweetness, a soul-lifting note that stripped years of cynicism from his skin. Tears blurred his sight once more. Not of sorrow, but of reverence. And so the paragraph closed on a man and a cat bathed in after-hours fluorescence, each healing the other without a single spoken word. This isn't just a story, it's a cry from the soul of nature. 2 years later, autumn gold. Spilled across Tulsa like scattered coins, yet it was paper money that began haunting Guru Stu's glass vestibule. First 5 crumpled dollars. Then 8, then 12, fluttering across the welcome mat like migrating leaves that smelled faintly of perfume, sweat, and city dust. Confusion sharpened into mystery, and mystery sharpened into obsession. Survival of sanity demanded an answer. Thus Stewart, ever the viral YouTube story craftsman now, installed motion sensor cameras, cloaking his detective quest beneath corporate language about security optimization. That very evening he sat on his sofa, the dog snoring, Carrie grading papers, his laptop streaming ghostly live footage. Hours crawled. The cat napped, stretched, patrolled shadows like a velvet-footed sentinel. Then at 2:03 a.m., the door's outer halo captured a passerby. A young man in headphones paused, eyes widening at the feline silhouette bathed in lamplight. He knelt, slid a single dollar through the slim gap, wiggling it like a kite tail. Sir Wine's, Lot's pupils flared. She pounced. Paper vanished behind the glass. The stranger erupted in delighted laughter and strolled away, head shaking in wonder. Moments later, a couple approaching from the opposite side repeated the ritual $2, $3 before snapping selfies against the window. On the sofa, Stewart's jaw dislocated from awe. Carrie rushed over. Together, they watched pilgrim after pilgrim arrive, offering tribute to the Tabby Street performer. It dawned on them that their office cat had become a grassroots legend, a living attraction whose animal miracle antics stitched community together on a boulevard otherwise busy with loneliness. The next morning, Stewart pinned a handmade sign outside. Meet Kashnip, works for tips and belly rubs. All proceeds donated to homeless outreach. Word spread like rain across thirsty ground. Local news anchors filmed segments titled Dramatic. Wildlife rescue meets urban hustle. Tourists deviated from Route 66 itineraries to capture a touching animal story for Instagram. More importantly, the crumpled bills pooled into hundreds, then thousands, funneled to shelters and soup kitchens. Each sunrise, as Stewart scooped the overnight earnings into a wooden box, he whispered a verse now etched into his marrow. When creature lifts coin for creature, the kingdom of compassion manifests on earth. In that simple exchange, every aching heart finds refuge. His own heart, once patched with compromises, now throbbed fierce and full. He recognized that Sir Wine's Kashnip, feline philanthropist, had not merely filled an office. She had rewired a city's pulse, proving one whiskered performer could spark a revival of generosity. The final scene unfolds beneath dawn's pink hush. Stewart unlocks the door. Kashnip twirls figure eights around his ankles and commuters outside clap, phones raised high. Tears spill down cheeks, glimmering like currency, as strangers whisper gratitude to a tabby who turned pavement into sanctuary. And there, on that threshold where glass meets hope, man and cat bow to each other, a soul, lifting tableau crystallizing the eternal truth that human and animal connection is the oldest, most radiant currency the world will ever know. In the stillness of a late Tulsa evening, beneath the quiet hum of streetlights and the distant sounds of cars rolling over damp asphalt, a miracle unfolded that not even the city's oldest ghosts could have predicted. The cat, lithe, graceful, and seemingly made of moonlight, leapt silently onto the window ledge, then pounced toward the narrow slit at the bottom of the glass office door. With a flick of her paw and a flash of feline instinct, she seized the dangling dollar bill from a stranger's hand and yanked it through the space like a prize thief in a fable. Her movements were precise, practiced, and impossibly fast. Watching it unfold through the grainy filter of a security camera feed, Stewart's mouth hung open. He blinked once. twice, and then, stunned and speechless, he called his wife. When she arrived and watched the footage, her laughter burst like sunlight into the room, crashing against the silence and proving to Stuart that he wasn't losing his mind. No, the video didn't lie. There, it was plain as daylight, their office cat pulling in money from amused passers-by, as if trained by circus legends. And what shocked Stuart more than the act itself was the reaction of the man in the video. He didn't scold, didn't grab the bill back, didn't frown. No, he smiled. Like he had come to that office just to do this. Like he knew, even the beasts of the field shall rejoice when love makes an offering. And the wild will bow when kindness learns to play. By morning the mystery deepened. There she was again, Sir Wine's, a lot sitting beside the largest pile of dollar bills Stuart had yet seen. Her tiny paws rested proudly next to the crumpled green trophies, her whiskers twitching in the early sunlight like antennae tuning in to joy. The sight felt surreal. Was she performing? Was this a show? And if so, how many people were part of the audience? Stuart brought the security footage into the office and played it for the team. Laughter exploded across the room like fireworks, echoing off cubicle walls and buzzing monitors. Some people doubled over. Others couldn't breathe. They replayed the clip again and again, each time more astonished. Their cat, once a silent mouser and afternoon cuddle buddy, had become something. More a performer, a legend, a local miracle. No one could remember exactly when it started. But it had. Somehow, in the quiet corners of the night, the tale of the money-grabbing cat had spread like an urban fairy tale through the heart of Tulsa's East Village. And by dusk that day, the street outside the office had transformed. Children with juice boxes, teens with phones ready, grandparents with walkers and wide grins, all waiting not for a concert, not for fireworks, but for her. For the cat with the paws of a pickpocket and the heart of a healer. What had started as a quiet evening habit had exploded into a street performance worthy of viral YouTube stardom. An animal is calling, will you answer? One night, as the security footage rolled silently across Stuart's laptop screen, he witnessed something that would forever redefine his understanding of wonder. The cat now no longer just Sir Wine's a lot, but something closer to amused sat unmoved, as a small line of people gathered outside. Phones glowed like lanterns, giggles danced in the night air. Then came the moment. With theatrical timing that would make any Broadway actor envious, she turned toward the door, stretched languidly, and met the gaze of the crowd. A hush fell. Someone waved $1. She ignored it. Another waved a $5. She flicked her tail. She waited like a queen, deciding who was worthy. Then in one swift movement, she leapt and snatched the bill with a perfect pot-of-teeth maneuver that sent the crowd into thunderous applause. This wasn't just a cat trick. It was a ritual. It was theater. Weekends became magical. Friday and Saturday nights saw the office flooded with giggling partygoers, many in fancy clothes or with glittered nails, pressing bills against the window in hopes of being chosen. The cat, now practically a seasoned showman, brought in $30 to $40 a night. It was fun, it was funny. But then Stuart faced a question that hung in the air like an unanswered prayer. Whose money was this, really? And what should be done with it? When play becomes purpose and gifts become giving, the line between man and beast becomes holy. Some said it was theirs to keep. After all, people gave freely, joyfully. But Stuart, raised on a faith that saw every blessing as a seed, couldn't shake the thought, we didn't earn this. She did, and if she could give it away, maybe we should too. The decision wasn't his alone. He gathered his family, his mother, his sister, and together, with hearts full and teary eyes, they agreed. The cat's earnings, lovingly nicknamed stolen cash, would go entirely to the Tulsa Day Center for the Homeless. A full circle moment. The once homeless cat now fundraising for the homeless. Humans are waiting. Prepare yourself for the wild to change your heart. Using office supplies and late-night brainstorming sessions, Stuart and his team designed a massive, cheerful sign explaining the story to the world. It read like a fable, a cat with a trick, a team with a cause. A community that believed in giving. That transparency, that truth only made things grow faster. Social media devoured it. People everywhere shared clips with captions like heartwarming, animal video, animal miracle, dramatic wildlife rescue. The local legend had now become a worldwide phenomenon. Letters poured in from across the globe, school kids in Japan, grandparents in Italy, families in Brazil. They sent notes, drawings, poems, and money. Not through the door, but in holiday cards stuffed with $10 and $20 bills. International news teams landed in Tulsa like pilgrims at a modern shrine. They recorded Cashnip, now famous, lounging on a golden miniature couch donated by a local furniture store. The couch sat by the window, perfectly spotlighted, as if designed for royalty. And why not? Cashnip had become a symbol not just of joy, but of what happens when kindness meets imagination. The team worked around the clock now, balancing their marketing deadlines with managing Cashnip's growing empire. Facebook followers shot past 21,000, messages filled their inbox. One office worker joked, "My job used to be graphic design. Now I'm also a cat manager, media liaison, and spiritual assistant to a feline philanthropist. The creatures of the earth shall lead when humans forget the path to grace." One evening, as twilight kissed the city and the last fan waved goodbye, Stuart sat beside the golden couch where Cashnip purred softly. He rested a hand on her back, and for a moment the world felt silent. Not because of stillness, but because of peace. Here was a stray who once cried at doors, now bringing warmth to the forgotten, laughter to the lonely, and purpose to those who had lost theirs. He whispered, "You know, we never really named you." She blinked slowly, eyes wise beyond 9 lives. "Cashnip," he smiled. "That's who you are. Not just a trickster. Not just a show, but a gift." And in that moment, beneath the warm glow of streetlights and soft hum of city dreams, a man and a cat breathed as one. No audience, no cameras. Just the quiet truth that animal and humanity, woven together in an act so simple, could change the world. Each morning at Guru Stew began with a familiar sound, not keyboards clacking or coffee cups clinking, but the gentle thump of a cat hopping onto someone's lap or keyboard. If Cashnip Kitty couldn't nestle into a warm human lap, he'd declare his dominion with soft paws, walking across computer keys, often hitting send on half-written emails, launching unapproved designs to clients with unapologetic grace. It became a running joke Cashnip wasn't just their mascot. He was their most prolific employee, and yet no one minded. How could they? His presence radiated warmth. Even in deadlines and stress, there was something about him, a spark, a peace, a silent whisper that life is more than work. As Stuart once said, eyes full of wonder, he's not living in our world, we live in his. But Cashnip's world wasn't just about laughter and laps, it was about giving. The team monitored every donation page like guardians of a sacred trust. Every dollar, every cent was accounted for. And by the time 2019 rolled around, this miracle with whiskers had raised nearly $6,000 for the Tulsa Day Center for the Homeless. That number wasn't just a sum. It was a prayer answered for. Hundreds who had no beds, no warmth, no roof. And behind that money was a paw, a playful leap, a rescued cat whose only language was affection. When the smallest creature becomes a shepherd of compassion, the heavens bow low to watch. Monica Martin, the development head at the Day Center, could hardly believe it. "We've seen people hold bake sales, run marathons, even host concerts to raise money," she said with a tearful smile. "But this is something else. I've never seen anything quite like it, and I love it." That love only deepened when Stuart McDaniel, who had started Guru Stew at 16 and earned recognition as the youngest inductee to the Tulsa 40 at just 23, was honored at the Heart of Henry benefit, the most prestigious event for supporting the city's homeless. But this year, something magical happened. Traditionally, the ceremony recognized one adult and one child. But for the first time ever, the child honor went to a cat. Cashnip Kitty and his human family were celebrated side by side, paw in hand as champions of hope. The spirit of giving doesn't ask your species, it simply asks, "Do you care?" As part Of that same season, Stewart received the Community Awareness Award, his name etched beside a new kind of legacy. Newspapers across Oklahoma ran the story. Tulsa cat has pulled thousands of dollars in donations from the streets, $1 at a time. The photo showed Stewart in a suit, smiling humbly next to the true star, who lounged on his miniature golden couch, posing like royalty. Stewart stood beside his wife one evening as the sun dipped below the skyline and a small crowd gathered near the office. Cashnip swatted gently at a bill passed through the window, earning claps and cheers from strangers who had once been skeptics but now believed. Stewart leaned over and whispered, "Can you believe this little guy has raised thousands?" She smiled, eyes glistening. "I can. Because people want to believe in good?" "And he was homeless once," Stewart murmured, more to himself. "Maybe that's why it feels right, like he knows, like he remembers. Even the forgotten can become the givers. For it is in the scars of survival that compassion finds its voice." When a local reporter arrived for an interview, she asked a simple question. "What surprised you most about all of this?" Stewart didn't hesitate. How generous people are. He explained that Cashnip didn't just charm people, he moved them. They didn't come just to play or laugh, they came to give. He'd seen it in the eyes of every visitor who smiled. Every note that came with a check, every child who pressed their hand to the glass in awe. One day, a little girl stood outside with her mother, holding an envelope sealed with heart stickers. The mother said softly, "She saved her allowance to donate to Cashnip's cause." Stewart knelt to her level. The girl beamed, handing him the envelope. "I want to help the homeless," she said proudly. "Like Cashnip helps them." Stewart's voice broke. That's exactly what he'd want. "You're a hero, sweetheart." When innocence chooses mercy, a nation is healed by the kindness of a child's hands. On a particularly busy Saturday, as tourists poured in and the cat lounged dramatically for the cameras, Beverly, one of Stewart's longtime co-workers, laughed between sips of coffee. "You know," she chuckled, "I think Cashnip works harder than all of us combined. And he's probably the most successful worker we've ever hired," Stewart quipped. They both laughed, but the truth hung in the air like incense. Because it was true, people began flying in from overseas. Visitors from Germany, Brazil, the UK, and one special guest from Japan stood outside the glass just to see the legend. The Japanese tourist bowed and said in broken English, "He is famous in Tokyo. We love your cat." Stewart blinked, stunned. A year ago, he was just a stray. He shook his head in disbelief. Now he's bringing the world together. And indeed he was. What begins with feeding a stray becomes the seed of global unity when love waters it. Stewart often found himself replaying the same thought. I never meant for this to happen. He'd only wanted to feed a hungry animal, to open one door, to say yes to compassion once. But that one yes became a tidal wave of kindness. What began on a porch had turned into an international movement. Cashnip had gone beyond cat videos and giggles. He had become a symbol of what we are capable of when we choose love. Of how a single act of paw through a door, a dollar shared in joy can change lives, and every now and then, as twilight painted golden stripes on the sidewalk outside Guru Stew, Stewart would stand at the window, watching Cashnip nap on his velvet throne. Sometimes there was a crowd. Sometimes it was just him. But always there was hope. Did you like this story? The narrator would ask, "Would you keep the money if it were your cat? Or would you give it back to help others like Cashnip once was?" Tell us in the comments, if this tale moved your heart. Follow us, click like, and remember, small, kind acts ripple outward, a paw print here, a smile there. Until one day, the whole world is changed. Thanks for watching. See you next time. And may your day be filled with the kind of kindness that Cashnip shared with every single paw.